Sequels are hard. When something new and shiny is released into the world, the creator always has to ask, how do I follow up on this invention? How do I capitalize on this momentum? For everyone who saw my Star Force video, you're probably asking yourself something like this. Splash, how are you gonna top your first video? Of course I'm kidding. Kind of. But this definitely had to be a question that Capcom had to ask themselves at one point. Megaman Star Force released and hit the ground running with an incredibly mature and deep story. Did the sequel keep pace? Can I keep pace? Let's find out together. I promise by the end of this video, you're gonna know everything about one of the wildest stories I've ever played in a game. Or, I guarantee your money back. Star Force 2! They made a sequel! Megaman Star Force 2 released in North America only less than a year after the first game. 2 months have passed since the end of that game. Right away you can notice our young protagonist Geo no longer has a sad, mopey portrait and is instead a cheerful preteen. For everything that happened to him in his debut game, he totally deserves this. He also swapped out his old personality of being antisocial and depressed with being a bit of a nerdy, likable goofball. While he is excited for his new device, the Star Carrier, his alien partner Omega is disinterested, not caring about much unless it involves violence. His foil being the gruff, aggressive Mega works even better in this game. Geo's still a pacifist who doesn't enjoy battles, while Mega literally jumps at any chance to go buck wild. He doesn't have to wait long for that. An advertisement blimp malfunctions and almost crushes Geo. It wouldn't be a Mega Man game without a good old near-death counter, right? When Geo and Mega fuse, they become Mega Man. We shut the show down and our Tsundere friend Luna Platts and her little buddies Bud and Zack appear and immediately establish their character tropes. I'll let you guys take a guess as to who is who. Geo reminds everyone to keep his identity as Mega Man a secret. For the record, I love it when characters are just blurting out secrets in public. How many times can you guys remember hearing Ryuji brag about how much he loves being a phantom thief?
Hey, where you at? Taking a leak? Let's meet up at the usual spot to hold our phantom thieves meeting.
We helped this annoying guy who was using the blimp to advertise his horror movie coming out, and he gives us the tickets for the premiere. Before we go see the movie, I set up this beautiful piece of work. Zack debuts the Zackpedia. Then we learn a little bit about the world. A new social system called Link Power exists, where the more brothers, or people you add through your BFF list you have, the higher your social standing. This clout-based economy means you get special treatment everywhere you go, depending on how high your Link Power is. In Star Force 1, we predicted collecting friends before the Facebook boom, and now this? These games were truly ahead of their time. Alright, so consider this a brief editor's note. I was going to count every single Zackpedia counter in the game, but there's 6 of them before we even leave Wilshire Hills. I also spent a lot of time trying to find the least annoying sound I could that would play every time that a Zackpedia counter popped up, and I could not think of a single one. So to save you guys the stress, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, the final count for the Zackpedia is a grand total of 18 times. Oh my god. Alright, back to the video. We were on the topic of matter waves. Even crazier than that is the invention of matter waves. Our Star Carrier lets us turn EM waves into solid objects such as cars, hoverboards, and who knows what else. The city we travel to is Wilshire Hills, and it has the tallest building in the country, the IFL Tower, or just the Eiffel Tower. It turns out to be a giant EM wave transmitter. With society's dependency on EM waves, it'd be crazy if something happened to the tower. As we watch the movie Ghost Duster, a creepy dude named Dark Phantom crashes the premiere with some last minute edits. He also establishes being a creep as if it were a speedrun category. With great power comes great responsibility. In Star Force 1, Geo was a reluctant hero forced into a battle involving aliens and the people in his life. Here we see our sweet boy much more accepting of his role as a hero. Something strange is happening in the neighborhood, so Geo gets his ghost dusting on. Now that we're in for our first real dungeon, I can talk about how, rather than separating the zones for Mega Man to navigate and do battle in, the wave world is actually integrated into the real world as well. Seeing the EM paths overlaid with the real world before we even transform is a pretty cool way of seeing what's to come when trouble goes down. Another interesting plot point is that there are places called visible zones where humans who cannot normally see EM beings can. We reach the top of the tower and we're faced with the creepy troublemaker and wannabe director, Hyde. He reveals an ancient star carrier housing a strange EM being named Phantom. Then the two of them wave change to reveal that, yeah, they were Dark Phantom. The goal here was to take control of the tower, which would let him take control of the country. Simple, but a solid plan, all things considered. Like the first boss of Star Force 1, Phantom is doomed to be pretty straightforward as a boss fight. He escapes, we save Luna, Mega Man gets recognition from the spectators. First boss down. Surely that's the last we've seen of Hyde, right? Summer vacation begins. What do you guys think of when you think of summer vacation? Do you think of traveling to another country? Do you think of beautiful beaches? Well, the gang has decided that, Luna has decided that we're gonna go skiing for our vacation. Zack also tells us about the concept of UMA sightings. The abominable snowman, the ghost from the past area, these would all qualify as UMAs. Seeing where this is headed, the Zackpedia also shows us how to check into the resort, blah blah blah. We also run into Bob Copper, and oh my god, his profile is hilarious. We meet the owner of the hotel, and he starts trauma dumping on us. There's been sightings of the abominable snowman lately, and giant snowballs falling from the sky are injuring the guests. Because of this, tourism has gone down, and things haven't been going too well. I'm pretty sure this is a plot from Scooby-Doo, but let's see where it goes. Our Mr. Jenkins walks in. A man named Rich.com, who is the president of a company that's been aggressively buying up other companies left and right. Luna volunteers her crew to investigate the weird incidents, and then Valen tells Geo what to do. On my way to our special suite, I did take a peek at one of Rich's agents, and I was not disappointed in her secret evil diary. As we start our investigation, Geo gets an anonymous message and almost gets crushed by a snowball. The girl who saved us was the hotel owner's daughter and professional skier, Amy. Bud and Zack are already big fans of her. Luna is not. She even hits Zack with a short joke that I'm gonna take for myself now. On our way back to meeting with the gang, we run into a mysterious white-haired boy who can see Omega and even warns us to stay out of the wave world. More on him later. Bud enters an eating competition to impress Amy because the ladies dig a man with an appetite. And to help him win, we find a ridiculous contraption called the eating machine, made purely to stuff food into your mouth even if you're full. Zack enters too for some reason. In the heat of competition, Bud awakens the dormant power of Taurus, the FM alien who possessed him once before. Since this is a visible zone, everybody sees Mega Man save them from Taurus fire. As we call it a day, the bad guys get together and spell out their plan for us. Kind of. Rich is actually Yeti Blizzard and was given his powers by Hyde. He wants the resort as a base of operations, and Rich wants it for profit. Like I said, Scooby-Doo plot. Big homie Bud asks Amy out on a date, going skiing, but then he selflessly tells her to focus on training for the upcoming tournament instead. This is relevant because the weather machine controlling this place malfunctions and a crazy blizzard happens, putting everyone in danger. Bud rushes to make sure Amy's okay. For some reason, we have to ski down the mountain to make our way up to the top to make sure everyone is safe and to stop the malfunction. We get another near death as Bud saves Amy from being buried in the snow. Yeti Blizzard makes his reveal, we shut him down, Hyde stays hiding, Luna finally calms down, and we form a brother band with Bud. He deserves it. Meanwhile, a bad guy HQ, we learn the white-haired boy's name is Solo. He finds an item called the Oop Art and learn that he's working with a woman named Vega, who Hyde works for as well. To be clear, Solo is working alongside them, but he's not part of their team. And everyone keeps talking about Solo's bloodline, and we don't really find out anything yet. The next day starts off strong when the best girl makes her appearance. It's Sonia! After a whole lot of flirting and teasing from both kids, as well as the EM beings, Sonia asks us for yet another date to Wilshire Hills. We learn that after her musical hiatus, she found a new motivation, inspiring people who have lost family members just like herself and Geo. She confesses that she got the strength to do this by being inspired from Geo's heroic actions. This is a big theme in Star Force 2, people drawing strength and inspiration from the actions of those they love. Geo's clout continues to pay off as the movie producer from the beginning of the game gives us a free entrance to the Lost Civilization exhibit. This is where things get interesting. The exhibit centers around artifacts from a lost civilization known as the Mu. It was an ancient continent that somehow mysteriously vanished. We don't even know if they even existed or not. They were apparently a really powerful civilization with science far beyond what they have in Geo's time, which is 200 years past where we are now. Also 200 years past the Battle Network series. One of the objects also looks identical to the ancient star carrier that Hyde uses. Omega commits felony number 1 by touching it, but Geo has the hookup, right? So it's fine. We then learn about the 3 tribes that were lost. The Zerkers, who seem to be modeled off of Nordic warriors, the Saurians, who were giants with the power of dinosaurs or something, and the Ninja, who specialize in deadly stealth combat. It turns out what doomed the 3 tribes was constant infighting, weakened bonds within their society, and civil wars. This event was ominously called the precursor to ruin. The last and most important piece of the exhibit is the Oop Art, which stands for the out-of-place artifact. The object in question is a big fucking shuriken made of a completely unknown material that came from the Ninja tribe. Even crazier than that is that the closest thing resembling it is matter waves. As Mega's captivated by the EM waves this thing is spewing out, all of the artifacts in the exhibit start getting sucked in by black holes. Megaman and Harpnote transform. Omega can't resist his urges, and he eats the artifact. This ends our date, so now Sonia wants to make plans with Geo as well as the whole group. Geo and Mega have one of those weird dreams you have after you eat something you really shouldn't right before bed, but surely that doesn't mean anything. Things have been going too smoothly for us to this point, but don't worry, we have a solution for that. The crew meets up and those black holes start abducting our friends. Megaman starts having a crazy reaction to the Oop Art, and then we finally get introduced to one of the most important characters in the Star Force series. Every good protagonist needs a good rival, someone who can be a peer to their strength, or sometimes even be someone they need to surpass. Solo fits our needs perfectly. Not only is he significantly more powerful than Geo, his ideals are the exact opposite of everything Geo stands for. Solo performs a wave change with himself. He doesn't need an EM body in order to do this. Geo's friends make a horrible and frankly annoying mistake. They get too close to the fight because they want to see him in action. They get sucked up by the black hole, and then Solo puts us in a crazy near-death scenario. Solo is quite unique because he is fast, his moves are erratic, and when you attack him, he doesn't really flinch. We fight him off in order to save Luna, but what happened to Bud, Sonia, and what's-his-face? It turns out the massive pressure that everyone placed on Mega Man got to Geo, and when you add his failure to save his friends to this, you get a hero with performance anxiety. I'm not kidding, the game says it right there. These things can happen. Meanwhile, Luna was putting in the work, and our friends and Zack are still alive because our brother bands are still active. The two kids have a very deep and serious moment where they confess how afraid they are for what happened to the people they care about, for the upcoming battles against unknown and powerful enemies, the enormous expectations the world has at this point for Mega Man. Regardless, this is truly Luna's time to shine, and the first Star Force, she came off as a pushy Tsundere. In this game, we get to see her be a fiercely loyal friend to Geo, as well as someone who's headstrong and goal-oriented. In his lowest emotional state since Star Force 1, he gets some advice from his mom, who got this advice from his dad. Astronauts carry heavy expectations from the crew, the staff, and all the normal people counting on them. So how did Calvin Stellar deal with pressure? Whether I succeed or fail, it doesn't matter. It's whether I have the courage to try. Essentially, Calvin believes that even if he fails, his courage can inspire someone else to try. Courageousness is contagious. It's a source of great power. Let's keep that in mind for later. Alright, it's time to put what Calvin said to practice. Hyde kidnaps Luna, who happens to have Mega Man on speed dial, which coincidentally accelerates Hyde's plan to flush out Mega Man. This guy constantly Mr. Magoo's his way into success. He's like Buggy the Clown, but without the charisma. Hyde decides to reuse plots and assets, but with new extras, the Murian Warriors. These guys would be pretty serious challenge if I wasn't so overpowered. As we face a wall of them, the vestige of the ninja star takes over our body and obliterates these guys. Dark Phantom somehow has the ability to activate Ophiuka's powers from deep within Luna. He hits a sore point, saying that this could have all been prevented had Mega Man been stronger. Mega Man defeats her and Luna turns back to normal, but he got hurt holding back against his friend. This is a really dire situation for our hero, but his father's words give him something he didn't have up until this point, a purpose. Geo was a reluctant hero in Star Force 1, fighting due to self-defense or to save people from danger. Kelvin's message of selflessness and inspiring others lands with him. Instead of overwhelming him, the belief and expectation people have in him become the source of his power. Mega Man then literally goes Super Saiyan. He loses control, he's full of rage, he has aura around him. Look at his pose even. Luna refuses to leave him though, and is the key to helping him gain control. This is where the version differences kick in. The three Morian tribes were the Zerker, Ninja, and Saurian. Star Force 2 gives both versions the option to play as Zerker, but Ninja and Saurian are version exclusive. They're all strong and good, and I'm not really going to cover them here because the entire game I was actually playing as the Tribe King, which is the combination of all three and the pinnacle of the power of Mu. Anywho, Phantom escapes, but we're now way stronger than we ever were before. By the way, technically we should still have the power of the Star Force from the first game. Where did that go? Hey guys, look, Geo and Luna are watching the best show ever. And then they see something else. Apparently a giant creature was spotted at Loch Ness. Unfortunately, the person who saw it was Zack. Luna decides that if he's not going to come back to us, we're going to go and get him back ourselves. We don't actually know where the Loch Ness is, so we go to the most worldly person we know, the owner of the Big Wave shop, Mr. Ken Souther. He tells us some crazy story about a dude named Johnny, but he didn't really solve our problem. Fortunately, my in-game brother, Moai, tells us where to go. No, I'm not going to elaborate on that. The ever-impressive Luna packs her bags and flies by herself to another country. I grew up in New York City, and my grandma wouldn't even let me go down the street by myself until I was in high school. Omega suggests we commit another felony, sneaking ourselves into another country without a passport. Mega Man uses the big-ass satellite dish in Luna's house to travel into the Skywave, which is basically the highway of EM waves for transportation across the world. While the concept here is really cool, the actual layout of the Skywave is miserable to traverse. Half of the paths are dead ends, and with the encounter rate as high as it feels in this game, there were times where I would finish a battle and feel really disoriented as to what direction I was headed to or where I came from, which just led to more random encounters. The Skywave is easily the worst part of the game, and it's going to be our only way to reach different countries. The series is truly incredible though, so I did put up with it until we reached Mess Village. Gio's overwhelmed as this is the first time he's been a tourist.
Like you a tourist? You a tourist?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't really have the time to talk right now. We're in the middle of figuring something out.
You are a tourist? But are you a
Yes, we're tourists. Yes, we have everything.
We miraculously meet up with Luna, and as usual, she takes charge. The first thing we need to do is find someone who speaks the same language as us. Unfortunately, the only guy that does is this jerk director, Gary Romero. He wants nothing to do with us until he realizes he can shoot a sappy clip of him helping two foreign kids, us, by giving us a translator app. That boy fake as hell, but he did let us keep the translator. We ask around if anyone has seen someone who fits Zach's description, but we end up with nothing. Now, if you guys have been paying attention to the video, I've been dunking on Zach non-stop. That's because on top of being a one-note character with his Zachpedia and being kind of annoying, this arc really makes him out to be an inconsiderate friend in my perspective. While Gio and Luna were freaking out and finding ways to make sure their friends were safe, Zach believes he spotted Messi, so he reported it to the news, who gave him attention for it, which he then took as his responsibility and calling in life to tell people about Messi. Luna responds appropriately. On our way to have a one-on-one with Zach, one of my viewers pointed out a very specific NPC, and I'm really glad they did. I want to show all of you Duan Drown. Dislikes breathing! Zach's motivation is really unsatisfying. He's basically been brainwashed by Romero with the promise of fame and success. All he really wants is something he can claim as his own accomplishment. Zach is trying to spot Messi, but instead he spots Romero. He materializes a submarine and monologues to himself about how Messi doesn't exist and it's all made up by him for ratings. All things considered, he has a great point about how ratings are all that matters and things like facts shouldn't get in the way. Because Zach catches him and he is caught by Romero catching him, Zach is then thrown into the submarine so nobody finds out the truth. I will count this as a near death because given enough time he will suffocate in there. Hyde sees this as a perfect time to collab and decides to sponsor Romero. He gives him an ancient star carrier, and he proceeds to use his power to create a giant tsunami that sinks the entire village. This is a wild near-death scenario for us, but I have to imagine some people genuinely did not make it to the observatory in time. The power that the ancient star carrier gives people is incredible. We get a diving machine from a dude on the observatory and we head off to the seafloor to confront the boss and save Zach. This stage kind of sucks because you have to dig in extremely precise locations to unearth the Mr. Hertzes so they can move to the next location. This almost feels like a worse version of the Star Force 1 scrapyard area. If you dig in the wrong location, you'll be rewarded with an encounter that doesn't even have a reward. On the plus side though, this does have one of my favorite enemies, the Piranhas. They're a multi-hitting card that targets all enemies at once. When you combo it with a paralyzed card or even the plus 10 card, the damage it can give you is ridiculous. But enough of that. The boss here, Policio Wave itself, is really cool and very strong. The tricky part to his fight is there's two floating rocks on the stage that can really mess with your positioning and your attacks against him. Despite a bit of user error, we do handle him in a few seconds. Romero gets exposed, Zach is saved, and against our will, we form a brother band with him. He does not deserve friends like us. This next arc completely makes up for how annoying Zach is. He did make friends with a grown man, specifically the cameraman from the Loch Ness incident. According to his boy, somebody fell from the sky into the country of Wazap. You heard me right, it's called Wazap. Our foreign affairs ambassador and missions expert Ken Souther is a little more useful this time, and he even throws in the tragic conclusion of Johnny's story. We go through the Skywave again. Fun! We're rewarded with maybe the most fun arc of the game. Johnny was right, Wazap is a place of natural beauty and is the perfect setting for an awesome adventure. Real quick, I'm gonna get kinda personal here. The first time I played the Star Force series was when I was a kid during summer vacation in the Dominican Republic. That's where my family's from, and my summers were split between hitting the beautiful beaches, playing with my old friends, exploring the island's natural beauty, and binging the Star Force series. So revisiting this part of the game on stream made me really nostalgic for a beloved childhood memory. If you guys have any dope summer vacation stories, I would sincerely love to hear them. Luna walks up to us and calls this place a dump. She has nowhere near enough melanin or sunscreen for a place like this. The locals swarm them and constantly only say one thing to us: Wazap. The only person who actually talks to us is the shaman, who informs us that to start a conversation with somebody, you both have to say Wazap. We question the villagers for info on the person who fell from the sky. This person loves meat, is a hearty eater, and is a little thick. So you know who it's gotta be, right? Sonia's here! So it's Bud, right? And for some reason, we're not allowed to see him yet. We need to kill some time, so we learn about the local Wazap lines. The Wazap lines are geoglyphs, which is art made by removing part of the land to create an image. They're very clearly inspired by the real-world Nazca lines from Peru. If you take a close look, the Wazap lines look pretty familiar, don't they? The people of Wazap's culture revolves around the belief that the ancient civilization of Mu did in fact exist. Lady Vega also pointed out earlier that this place is actually somehow connected to Mu. The only geoglyph we don't recognize is the one shaped like a spinning top. This dude who is praying tells us that the continent of Mu was able to float in the sky. We offend his religious beliefs, and then we come face to face with Bud, or should I say the Great Budicus. The people of Wazap believe that he's a herald of Mu, or possibly even the god of Mu, because he just fell out of the sky. I think Bud genuinely donked his head when he fell and was suffering from amnesia, so our homie has an excuse, unlike others we know. We step into Luna's office and hatch a plan. Our problem is we can't talk to Bud with all of his worshippers around. Our solution is that we need to lure him out with something that he can't resist. We gather the ingredients needed to create the bait, a bowl of ginger beef. The Great Budicus appears, the shaman squares up to us, and we're beaten out by the smell of the local specialty, Wazap ribs. Speaking of getting beaten, as the locals are celebrating the Great Budicus, Solo appears, disappointed and angry that the people who would worship Mu are actually worshipping a fraud. We try to protect him, but even though he is way stronger than before, with the power of the ninja tribe, we are able to overpower him. Lady Vega's mysterious right-hand man, Hollow, steps in, knowing Solo wouldn't be able to defeat us, and takes him away. Solo really messed up Bud because he's unconscious for an entire day. We're gonna need some really powerful bait to snap him back to his senses. Luna surrenders her dignity, and the 1-2 punch of a cute girl and delicious food does the job. The shaman is unhappy about this and gets the locals to try and apprehend us because without Bud, his scheme falls apart. What scheme? He planned to use Bud as a figurehead to unite the people of Wazap, with him in control of all of it. Since we need Bud back, Mega pretends to be a monster from the history of Wazap, and causes the shaman to pass out from the fear of being eaten. While he was out, I did take a look in his star carrier, which shows us that all he cares about is the future of Wazap as a country, and what he can do to make things better. Truthfully, the shaman isn't all that bad. The kids materialize a car and plan to escape the country. Because Geo still doesn't have a passport, he'll be taking the Skywave, and that would wrap up our journey to Wazap, if not for Hyde. He approaches the shaman and offers a trade. Hyde will give the shaman an ancient star carrier containing the EM wave body, Condor, in exchange for information about Mu. With the shaman desperate to save his country from obscurity, he accepts. We make it all the way back to Echo Ridge's Skywave when we get a call from Bud. The kids were intercepted by a giant bird in the sky and are trapped back in Wazap. The shaman has decided, as punishment for Bud pretending to be some deity for Mu, they will instead be sacrificed. The shaman transforms into one of the coolest boss designs in the series, Terra Condor. He takes our friends away and commands the villagers to attack us, but they understand that the shaman is actually a good person and transformed out of desperation, so instead they ask us to save him from himself. To get to Terra Condor in the depths of the ruins, we need to find the Flame Mr. Hertzes and guide them back to their pedestals while hiding from smaller condors, or else we lose them all. This stage can get pretty tense because, of course, the random encounters don't stop, and like the Skywave itself, it's very easy to get turned around. We get past it and find out what Terra Condor's plan is. He's going to use our friends as an offering by tickling them to death. This is why I love this arc and the Star Force series in general. Things can be dark, intense, and genuinely funny while still being unpredictable. The bosses in Star Force 2 use this stage in a pretty cool perspective. They feel powerful, overwhelming. Terra Condor feels like a pretty grand fight. We win, of course, and we learn a little bit more about the shaman's troubles. Wazap has advanced way slower than most countries who have prospered through the years. We tell him all about the good things Wazap has and how he should focus on playing to the strengths of the country, the sights, the friendly locals, and most importantly, the incredible food. If the food has Bud's seal of approval, then these guys are golden. This is what's going to end up saving Wazap, that magic T word that we all love so much. And of course, Giga Chad Bud is immortalized for helping the country find a way forward. Meanwhile, in between cutscenes, the bad guy team has been trying to convince Solo to use something called the Indie Proof, something only he can use. There isn't too much substance to these cutscenes, so I haven't covered them too much in this video, but this is basically the culmination of that. It's just peer pressure. Hollow uses reverse psychology and Solo accepts the Indie Proof. What does it do? We'll cover that in a little bit. 1 week since we rescued Bud, the crew finds a lead as to where Sonia could be. Some strange airplane accidents keep occurring in the same area. A pilot from one incident claims that he saw a cute girl in pink clothes floating in the air. That's as good a lead as any as we're gonna get. We skywave over to the Mess Village to talk to the guy. The villains chit-chat about trying to find the continent of Mu using a new member they have. We get the black box from the crashed plane, and then we hook it up with the help of Zack's brother. Yeah, that's definitely Harp Note. Since this was recorded in a place called the Bermuda Maze, which is east of Wazap, that's where we gotta go. Commit a felony by breaking through the lock to the Bermuda Maze and immediately run into Harp Note, Sonia's waveform when she transforms with Lyra. This arc is going to get very heavy because Sonia is telling us that she's never going to come back and is resorting to erasing her brother band with Geo to show that conviction, and then knocks us out. Failing to bring Sonia back as well as losing her causes Geo to go back to his sad boy vibes. To be fair, she probably is the most important person to Geo. The two of them have the most in common. They were each other's first brothers, and they helped each other move on and grow from the loss of their own parents. Vega is tired of Hyde taking L's with literally every plan he's thrown at us, so she sends Hollow to try and get the Oop Art from us. It's at this point in the game that Megaman even learns about Lady Vega's existence. He's basically been playing defense the whole game, reacting to the villain's plans, and focusing on rescuing his friends. Hollow says he's given his word that he can't hurt us, but Solo's free to act up. The indie proof helps him accomplish this. It's the complete opposite of what Link Power is, as well as everything that Geo stands for. As if the two boys couldn't be more opposite to each other, Rogue's indie proof creates a barrier that repels any damage to him, including physical contact. It's a literal wall around his heart. I'll admit this fight is pretty hilarious because the barrier takes 1 damage and goes down, but no matter how strong the hit is, it will absorb all of it, and then you have a few more seconds to attack him before it goes up again. I'd love to have this power as Mega Man. Since this is a fight we can't actually win, Harpnell bails us out. She tells us she's working for Team Vega. We see she's made a deal with Hollow to help them in exchange for Geo not getting hurt anymore. Geo tries to hide from Luna, but she uses her resources to corner him. Geo tells Luna everything, and of course she doesn't mince her words. She calls Geo an idiot for not understanding Sonia's feelings and how hard it must be for her to do all of this just to keep him safe. Geo reflects on how he acted, afraid of getting hurt, and vows to bring her back safely. So to do that, we gotta beat her to her senses. Thoroughly. I'm gonna go ahead and show the entirety of the fight. She keeps it competitive, but in the end, hey, GG. Look at me, I can't even bear to look. So Sonia's exact goal under the bad guy team was to give them a hand getting to the center of the Bermuda Maze. The way ahead isn't necessarily difficult, it actually just feels very grindy and padded out because the encounter rate in Star Force 2 is ridiculous. Using only my raw intelligence and a guide given to me by the biggest Star Force fan I know, we make it to the end of the maze ourselves. In the center of the maze, Hollow springs his trap. It turns out the continent of Mu is what's actually down here in the bottom of the ocean. Fighting him is a pretty sizable jump in difficulty from everyone else. We defeat him, but the game goes beast mode here when Solo does the coolest thing ever. He shows up, transforms, and doesn't say a word. It's the definition of on-site with him. Sonia gets us out of the way, but she gets absolutely rocked by Rogue. The boys have one last exchange of ideologies, and Mega Man asks the most important question. Why does Rogue hate Mega Man so much? On a personal level. We finally learn the mysterious boy's backstory. Solo is the only person from Mu who's still alive. As a descendant of Mu, he has the power to see EM waves without a visualizer or even having to transform. He grew up being treated like a freak and was even assaulted just for being different. These attacks happened in groups, as Solo was easily able to handle anyone in a 1v1. This is the cause for his hate of all things involving friendship, unity, and this clout-based society, everything that Geo stands for. I can't even blame him for his opinions with the backstory that he has. Mega Man's convictions in this game are pretty solid though. He calls Rogue weak for believing that he doesn't need people, and they have one last showdown. Like most fights in this game, I show him what makes me strong, the Moai. Despite the big talk though, it does take everything to defeat Rogue. Hyde was hiding in the shadows the whole time, waiting for when we were vulnerable, and steals the Oop Art from us. His only successful plan was letting two preteens fight it out. Lady Vega rewards Hyde by revealing that this whole time she's actually some lady. More on her plan in a little bit. Geo wakes up. Luna tells him about the news. Sonia's in the hospital in critical condition. Lady Vega hijacks the airwaves and reveals her big plan to use the EM waves in the Oop Art to revive the continent of Mu as the Neomu Empire, with her as the Empress of the world. We work our way through the Skywave one more time. Then Hyde changes the script of the game and does more padding. Vega demonstrates the power of Mu with a space laser. We decide to call it a day and save the world tomorrow. With the bad guy team having no more use for Solo, Hollow is dispatched to kill him. Even in his damaged state, it's still too difficult. Rogue attacks Hollow, revealing that he's actually some guy. Kind of. And then Vega and Hyde discover the true source of Mu's power, Mu, the god of EM waves. And when this thing is referred to as a god, it's not an understatement. It begins to produce EM beings from nothing. Remember the chaos and destruction that each of the bosses we've faced to this point are capable of? Now imagine an endless supply of them. That kind of power would legitimately rule the world. So this next part gets a little crazy, but I'll do my best to try and explain. The EM bodies start attacking people all over the world as part of Vega's test. Once they're affected, they catch selfish attitudes and their link power plummets. Even the people who were taking care of Sonia at the hospital were affected. Sonia believes this was the precursor to Ruin that our tour guide from earlier in the game told us about, the event that ended the civilization of Mu, despite their technological advances and their great power. Geo says his goodbyes and promises to return home safely. Then we hit the Skywave for the last time, I promise. Using only my memory and again a screenshot from my phone, we navigate the Bermuda Maze and encounter Dark Phantom blocking our entrance to Mu. We finally learn what his motivation was about all along, to form a brother band with Lady Vega. He's gotten a power boost from her, but we beat him. He gets another power boost from her, and then Rogue shows up. He's truly working alone, and the two of them fight. Phantom takes another L, asks for more power, and is instead dropped from the plot. For good this time. The boys still have a score to settle with each other, but also know what the priority is. It's a race to see who can reach the end and stop Vega. Our last stage is Mu Continent itself. I'll say it again because we're near the end. The only annoying thing about Star Force 2 is the aggressive encounter rate. In about 10 seconds of overworld gameplay, I get 3 random encounters, dropping my progress to a halt. The Skywave itself wouldn't have been as annoying if the encounter rate wasn't so disorienting and aggressive. But enough about the negative, okay? It's been a fun ride up to this point, and like all Mega Man games, the finale really ramps things up. At the end of every checkpoint here, we're met with a very nasty surprise. The EM beings we've been fighting up to this point have the power to change using the Murian soldier bodies to unlock their full power. This means that a human host isn't even necessary, cementing in my head how strong the Mu Empire really was. To make it absolutely clear, EM bodies were to Mu what a sword or a knife would be to a warrior. The Murians used EM bodies as their weapons of choice. How could anything stand up to that? We kind of get our answer because just as Hollow tries to stop us, Rogue shows up. Hollow reveals that the ones responsible for the destruction of Mu were the Murians themselves. They used EM bodies and went to war with each other until they all wiped each other out. As the 3 of us get sucked into Hollow's dimension, Rogue kinda just... claiming we'd get in his way. But I think he's way too smart for that to be the only reason. Either way, we make it to the throne room, and in an attempt to have us join her, Vega starts trauma dumping like crazy. Lady Vega comes from a small, poor country that was constantly experiencing war. She became a scientist and worked her ass off to be able to afford to leave the country that she hated so much because it took so much from her. She especially hated its ruler, who would throw its citizens into war for the dumbest reasons and blow his money like crazy. And no matter where she went, she was surrounded by incompetent leadership. Is any of this sounding familiar to any of you? So her ultimate goal was to become the undisputed ruler of the world and weed out incompetence that could cause other people to suffer the way that she did. We'll never see eye to eye though, so it's time to square up against Mu. Even Mega comments on how strong this thing is. But you guys should already know how this fight is gonna end. And since I'm always down for a challenge, you know I had to run it back too. Being a sore loser, Vega hits us with the ultimate "you didn't win" and commands Neomu to drop the continent right on the planet. Hollow buys her time for this, and we learn what his deal is. He was the first matter wave that Vega ever created, in memory of the man that she loved, Altair, who was sent to fight in war and never came back. Hollow shields Vega from the explosion of Mu, and we see the wildest thing that happened in this game so far. The matter wave Hollow dies, and Altair is able to comfort her from the afterlife. Either way, Neomu proves to be too sturdy to be stopped, so what we need now is a spirit bomb. Everyone in the world has been watching Mega Man be brave and fight this thing on their behalf, trying to save the world. Because he was brave, his example inspired everyone watching him, and that inspiration became power, enough to finally destroy Neomu. With no energy left to actually escape the falling continent, this actually looks like the end for our hero. At the very last moment, Solo saves us, claiming that we were blocking his way when we were trying to escape, so he brought us all the way here. This is now the conclusion of Solo's story for Star Force 2, and with a hearty welcome back from our friends, this would be the conclusion of Star Force 2. But I did promise you guys one of the wildest stories in a game, right? Check this out. After beating the game, we get put back in the world right before the final confrontation with Mu. We got a weird message and we get access to Vega's throne room. In this throne room, we find a small globe, and when we pick it up, it's called the Alt Future. This opens up a wave hole in Echo Ridge. When we go through it, we end up in a destroyed version of Echo Ridge. We ended up in an alternate timeline where humans lost all their link power and were unable to stop Neomu from crashing into Earth, killing all humans. Even worse than that, an entirely new EM being was born from the destruction of Neomu, Apollo Flame. After wiping out humanity, he went into a deep slumber to restore his energy. We meet the Dark Phantom from this timeline, who calls himself Dark Phantom IF, or IF. He tells us everything. He's the one that tricked us into opening up the wave hole linking our timelines, and with all humans destroyed in this world, Apollo Flame has set his sights on destroying our timeline as well. Our only hope is to defeat Apollo Flame before he can wake up. To do that, we have to destroy his 7 warriors, 2 of which are Geo's love interests. Yeah, to save our timeline, Mega Man has to kill alternate timeline versions of the 2 girls that he's closest with, as well as extremely powerful versions of all the other bosses in this game, including optional bosses that we didn't even fight, and even some complete rando.
I don't even know who you are.
I wish I could say that I crushed these guys the way I did with everything else in the game, but no. The difficulty jump here is unbelievable. The reward is absolutely worth the wait though. Being the only 2 living beings left, we finally confront Apollo Flame. Look at this situation. Look at the destroyed world in the background. Look at this boss design. This is genuinely my favorite boss in all of Mega Man. I don't even try to hide how much I love this dude. He's so fucking cool. And fast. And handsome. What? Can you blame me? Even though he's in his base form, he still has a kill count of about like, what, 8 billion? We've saved our world twice before we fully finish Mega Man Star Force 2. Surely there can't be someone more powerful, right? If you guys have made it this far into the video, thank you all so much. The support and feedback from my first ever video has been incredible, more so than I could ever put into words. Star Force 2 may get a bad reputation for its ridiculous encounter rate, but the story more than makes up for it, so I had to try my best to spread the word for a ridiculously underrated series. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe because I'm not done. I'm only gonna get better at this. Also, please make sure to drop a like as well, share the video to a friend. We may still make a new fan out of them, right? As usual, I will be reading pretty much every comment, and it's been amazing to see how much Star Force means to so many people. And that's pretty much all I have left to say. Stick around because there's many more stories to tell. I'll see you guys again soon. Till then, take care.